Good morning. Topic today will be the state of the city. If you haven't picked up one of these yet, there's a stack of them over by the door. This will also be put on the city website today, so you can download a digital copy. All the hyperlinks will be active, so you don't have to sit there and try to type them all in. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to skim over this, because if I try to go into detail of everything in here, we'll be here past lunchtime. So what I'll do is I'll skim over it and then give a little extra time for question and answers. It starts off with what we accomplished in 2016. Some of the big things tend to be, or the most visible things are economic development, but it's also the most invisible thing. There's always ongoing talks with Kim Malonick, Executive Director of Economic Development, and Larry Kachimba, and any businesses that are looking at Sealy. It takes, on average, from the first conversation with a business to the time they open their doors, about 2 years. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's a little longer. But like, for example, SNC Lavalin, it took about 9 months, but they went into an existing facility. At Sika, they're building their facility. They just had their groundbreaking back in March. And part of what the EDC does is they go out and network, get businesses going. And if you look at on page 3, we've got a map there with 2 circles. It's a 15-mile radius and 20-mile radius. And that inside the 15-mile radius, in the year 2020, the predicted population inside that radius is over 40,000. Inside the outer circle, which is a 20-mile radius, the predicted population is going to be over 90,000. Now, admittedly, those circles take in part of Belleville in the inner circle, all of it in the outer circle, Wallace, Brookshire, hit the edge of Columbus, and of course we get the edge of Katy. So that's one reason the 20-mile radius is so much bigger than the 40-mile radius. But that helps with bringing businesses into Sealy, because when they look at it, the Buxton report, for example, they look at what people are buying within a 15-minute distance of a point. And major corporations such as Home Depot, Lowe's, major restaurant chains, they look at what's being the Buxton report to see what people want to buy and what's already available. For some things were balanced, some things were short, some things were over. Everybody agrees we need a good steakhouse, and there's been talks trying to lure some in. Last year we had a shortage of sporting goods. So Hibbett Sports came in. Well, actually, that was in 2015, not last year. This was actually the location of their 1,000th store in Texas. And so that they do look at that. Now we're more balanced on sporting goods. This, if you go on page 4, at the top of the page, you see some hyperlinks. And that you can get a complete profile for the city, which talks about the populations for the past and the projected, breakdown of the population by age, by gender, by race. And the businesses look at that because they want to know what to expect. And we've had a lot of businesses open up or in the process of opening. We had, of course, Whataburger. Everybody heard about Whataburger. It's the biggest store in the region. And Domino's came back to Sealy, and they built a building big enough to bring in 2 other businesses. The Children's Dentistry is opening a whole new location separate from their current location because they've just gotten that busy and that big. Now, the major announcements was, of course, Prosheks opening their location at 3538 and I-10, which I call it a bohemian version of Buc-ee's on steroids. And I love their dewberry cream cheese strudel. And SNC Lavalin, they brought about 250 jobs to Sealy. And when they had the job fair, they had over 400 applicants show up at the Leader Tafel Hall for the job fair. They were attracting people all the way from Houston. And then they were getting online applications from as far away as Louisiana. So that's definitely bringing more people into Sealy. Some of these people, obviously if they came from Louisiana, they'll relocate here. But the other ones from Houston and such, they may relocate here. So those of you that are realtors, hopefully that's good news for you. Sika, we all heard about that. They just, they're the ones that broke ground a couple of months ago. They're going to be making concrete products. So that would be kind of nice with the interstate project going on. Just, hey, ship the concrete products 2 miles down the road to where it's needed instead of having to distribute it all over the place. One of the things that, or two of the things that brought them here is because we worked with them. We came through with our promises. We're delivering on what we've promised them. But one of the things that really caught their eye is the county owns a railhead right there at along Paschal, comes out at Highway 90, and that easy access to the railroad made it easy for them to distribute their product and receive their supplies. Now also on page 5 it talks about the freight shuttle system, and City Manager Larry Kachimba is here, so I'll let him jump in if when he sees anything. He's been talking with the Port of Houston, the Port of Freeport, Texas Transportation Institute about bringing the freight shuttle in. What this does, it's an elevated rail system. Now, it's not like the high-speed rail that people are real controversial about going from Dallas to Houston. That one is on berms. Splits people's land, doesn't really give them enough access between their properties. But this freight shuttle system, it's actually on pillars and is above existing right-of-ways for the most part. So there's no interference with what's out there. It's electric motors, so there's no engine noise. Wheel noise is deflected skyward, so it's going to be practically no noise for anybody around there. And from the time a container is placed on a freight shuttle, let's say the Port of Houston, to the time it would be offloaded in Sealy, about an hour and 15 minutes. And Sealy could be the inland port. Freeport's been cleared to go 55 feet depth, so it'll be able to accept every ship in the world, but they don't have the geographic space, the physical space to put all those containers. They need inland space. Sealy, with its location at I-10, Highway 36, Highway 90, BNSF Railroad, and Union Pacific Railroad, is pretty much the ideal location for them to go to. Put it on the rail, the truckers don't have to deal with Houston traffic. They just come here, get loaded up, and hop right on the interstate or Highway 90. Larry, would you like to add anything?
The only other advantage, because of being an inland port, there'll be a lot more possibility for distribution centers and production centers here because it's closer to the port. We consider it a port. It's very economical for us. The freight lines, as far as the trucks, and they're not having to go into Houston. Not having to worry about the pollution going into Houston and the traffic and accidents that may happen in Houston. And because it's the Interstate 10 and Highway 36 intersection, that's great for any direction for us in Texas. So it's a win-win for everybody.
And it's hard to estimate how many jobs this will bring in. It'll definitely be in the hundreds, possibly well over 1,000 jobs affiliated with it, not just working at this inland port, but then you'll have the truck stops, the restaurants, the hotels, all the maintenance people for the different projects will be starting businesses up here also. It's just going to be one of the biggest economic booms for Sealy. The only thing is we just have to wait for them to finish the development of it. You can go on their website, freightshuttle.com, and you can actually look at an animated video that shows the concept. And then they have videos of the pictures of the prototype. Also on page 5 you see the discussion of the railway and how it doesn't interfere with life. It'll be about the only place it won't go over an existing right-of-way is if it needs to go through a town that's already congested, then it'll just go around that town and then get back on the right-of-way and continue towards us. So we are probably the top contender. The way we found out about it, Larry and I were at a conference for the Association of Rural Communities in Texas, and a commissioner with the Texas Department of Transportation approached us and said, we want Sealy to look at this. So we're getting a very positive attitude towards Sealy, like Sealy is the spot. Oh, are you saying when? What, Larry, about 2-3 years, 3 years?
Announcement possibly in 2020, 2019, 2020. Just to give you an idea of what kind of impact just on the structure, to build this 1 mile of structure like this is going to cost anywhere from $14 to $20 million a mile. And you're looking from the Port of Houston to here is 84 miles, and Freeport to here is 82 miles. And they want to keep it less than 100 miles because that's the economic value for them to use this kind of a system. Anything over 100 miles is something that's more economical as the railroad system. So this will work also with the railroad system, so once they get it to here, then they can take it from here straight to the railroad. If
So-
needed.
So this is even more incentive for Vince to move from Katy out here, right? Yeah, because all the growth in housing and stuff, right? And and you'll need an extra business development person at the Career Center then, right? Yeah. Next is the tourism. In January 2016, Sealy was is the administrator for a grant that we received. It's a tourism matching grant of $20,000. And then turn right around in 2017, we got an additional $18,000 matching grant for tourism marketing. And we're partnered with other communities, businesses, the chamber. We all benefit from that grant. Like I said, Sealy's the administrator. And they also have a tourism conference in Houston. So actually Tourism Summit is the name of it. Peggy went, Larry went, Brian was at the one, was it last year? Marcy was at it, I was at it. Kim went to it, Tony went to it. Did I miss anybody? Okay. It's a fantastic opportunity. We learn all about tourism, how to partner with other organizations, how to target certain markets. They also give us an analysis of international tourists. Who's coming from what countries, how many are coming, how much they're spending, how long they stay, and what they want to see. For example, those coming from England, they want to visit the things like the museums, like that. But if the tourists coming from China, they want to experience Texas. They want to go out and be cowboys for a week, things like that. So each culture wants to visit different things, based on what's important to them in their home country. And there's the networking that has been accomplished because of this. We now we have businesses in Sealy that now have partners in Houston to help bring tourists to Sealy. We had a couple of FAM tours where people from Houston First and Visit Houston came and took a tour of Sealy, and they were amazed at how much we have out here. They visited San Felipe, the historic. I believe they were at the historical site last year when they visited. And historical site, State Park. Did they stop by there? No. They also went to the Painted Church, Guardian Angel Church in Wallace. They went by, watched some cutting over at the All Around Cowboy Church. They visited the winery, Saddleback Saloon downtown. They visited Leader Toffa Hall, and they were amazed at that. We probably got a few rentals out of that deal. So, they just, there's so much out here that they didn't realize, but now we have a better tool for marketing it. And we also created a tourism commission. It's a 7-person commission. They've been active for about 6 months now, and one of the things they're working on in conjunction with the Main Street program is a fall festival here in downtown. It's still in the early planning stages, but we're looking at possibly a carnival, street dance, and we're going to be timing it with the Main Street Farmers Market, and rolling right along into Main Street, which is page 7, talks about all the things that they've accomplished. They even got worked with the planning department to get a $2,000 grant, and there was only $25,000 available for the state of Texas. So when you figure we got 1/12 of it, and there's 254 counties, we did pretty good. And talk about the cruise in, the street dance, Main Street Market, which is the second Saturday of every month from, is it 9 to 1?
Yes, sir.
All right, that right there on Main Street, come get your fresh produce, homemade items, if you need a gift for somebody. The Jingle Mingle and a few other things. Planning department, one of the things that they're working on most recently is non-annexation agreements. 'Cause a lot of people don't want to be annexed, but fortunately there's a clause in state law that if you have ag land and you're into ETJ, you can assign sign an agreement with the city, and as long as that remains ag land, you don't get annexed. And so you don't have to pay any extra taxes, but yet you're protected from any other city annexing you. The only city that can annex you is Sealy, but you have a written statement that you're not going to get annexed until it goes to some other use in agricultural. So let's say somebody has a 100-acre farm. They don't want to be annexed. But let's say 10 years from now, the developer approaches them with a lot of money. They said, okay, but as soon as that land is converted for residential use, it's automatically annexed, and it goes from there. So it's advantageous for both the city and the landowner. Larry, would you like to add anything on that one? Okay.
Question on that one, Mark. Where would you find that information if that agreement's in place?
Larry, would they go to the city or the appraisal district?
They go, it's filed at the courthouse once it's approved. But the agreement, if you want an actual, just a blank agreement,
Well, no, to see if there's an agreement in place for a plot of land or...
county courthourse.
Okay.
And you can also ask our planning department also, they probably can help you also with it.
And is that whether the property's in the EJT or not?
Yeah, the planning department can tell you. Warren Escovia is our director of planning and community development.
Okay.
He could tell you if it's in the extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. All right. Then Public Works. Okay, the biggest question on Public Works is probably the wastewater treatment facility. The bids are going to be opened on it. What is it? I believe May 11th, and then we'll know from there. I'll be off council 2 days before that. I hit term limits, so the next council will decide: do they like the bids, or do they want to go out for rebids? It's planned to be 2 million gallon per day capacity. Right now, we're averaging probably about 35% of that, which our current capacity is 0.98 million gallons per day. So we're only at, we're less than 75% of current capacity, but with the coming growth, we've got to plan ahead. Finance department, Stephen Kuchar, he's been doing it for over 20 years, and he keeps getting awards for doing such a good job. He got a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association. The state comptroller gave him a transparency star, because if you go on our website, you can see everything there. You can see what our budget is. You can see how much money is owed on different projects or certificates of obligations that have been obtained in the past. You can see the check register. You can find out exactly where your tax dollars are being spent. And it's got a link right there. Just go to that link and it'll give you anything you want to know about city finances. And along with the municipal court, the finance department worked to get a justified automated collections kiosk, JAC for short. I think that was actually Larry's the one that found the idea. And what it is, it's a 24-hour system on the side of the building. It looks like a ATM, but you can't get money out of it. You can only put money in. And at the city, we like when you put the money in. But in addition to paying your utility bills there, if the chief happens to stop you and then the court says, well, you got to pay a fine, well, you can go pay your court costs or your fines there. So you don't have to show up, you don't have to take time off from work to come 8 to 5 to pay a fine. You can just show up anytime, 24/7, and pay your utility bill, court costs, any money that you owe the city. What's also nice about it, if you lost your bill, you don't know how much your water bill is, you can go up to the kiosk, punch in your last name and the street number on your address, and it'll tell you how much you currently owe on your utility statement. Then you can pay by cash, check, or credit card or debit card. Accepts all the different types of payments. Police department, they were real busy during the flooding, along with the public works people, driving the vehicles out there and getting people in the back of the big trucks. But the police department got a Humvee, one of those former military vehicles, at no charge. It didn't cost us anything. All we're going to have to do is put the paint on it and do a couple of minor repairs, put some new lights on it. And then they also got an LMTV, light medium tactical vehicle. It's 2.5-ton capacity cargo truck. Used to be made down the street at BAE. Had very few miles on it. Was in practically new condition, and got it for maybe 5% of the actual cost, somewhere around there. Is that right, Chief?
$7,500, and it was a $100,000 cost then, back in the 90s, when it was made to the military. So yeah, it was
And I believe y'all are getting it painted and.
it's currently being painted right now.
Okay, and that vehicle, in addition to being a high water rescue or marginal terrain rescue, which around here the terrain's not that marginal, it can also be used to transport the equipment. It or the Humvee can transport the equipment for the annual movie in the park during the National Night Out that the police department does. It had a fantastic turnout this past year. What is it, about how many thousand people?
We're estimating right at 3,000.
Yeah, and in
A lot of people from out of the area come to it, even though it's technically supposed to be for, neighborhood residents. It's grown into a event.
yeah, and stepping back, in addition to that, bringing in out-of-town people, the events at downtown Main Street bring in a lot of people. The Boo Bash, which is this past year was the 3rd year, I believe, that we did it. There were I personally ran into people from Wallace, Waller County, was it Montgomery County? They were coming in from surrounding counties. Well, yeah, they were here for the music and the free trick-or-treating on Main Street. But while they're here, they're going to buy gas, they're going to buy food. And so it's a tourism draw. We are in a very high tourism area. And then once the state historical site gets fully operating, that's going to be even more. There's a lot of remodeling going on at the state park also. So that's going to bring in a lot more. Okay, what we're accomplishing now. Sealy was recognized as a top 3 for manufacturing sites in the West Houston region. And that was by Southern Business and Development magazine, which covers all the states in the southeastern United States, from Florida through Texas, and I forget how far north it goes. And we were ranked up there with Katy and Rosenberg being as ideal places for new manufacturing to go to. So that is a real boost and a real compliment to our Economic Development Corporation. There's just so much going on that I wish we could talk about for economic development, but there's certain confidentiality agreements that we have to sign with the businesses. And another thing, Chief, was it last week you were up in Conroe, or was it the week before?
Week before.
Did a training exercise with Texas Department of Emergency Services and FEMA, simulating a Category 4 hurricane coming up through Galveston Bay. Chief, would you like to add anything on that?
It was very insightful is to see how the decision-making occurs on like the 10-day out mark, or when the storm is first, when it first becomes a storm way out in the eastern Atlantic, and then how they progress. And like I said, the decision-making on how things happen all the way here. And even I was naive to some of the things that you think about when the storm comes in on the east coast of the United States, or say Florida, and it can easily hop over Florida and then get into the Gulf. And then we become a prime target. What you don't realize, or what I think of, is all the building materials, generators and everything, all the equipment that you need to take care of our area following the storm has already been sucked out of here and sent elsewhere. And so how we have to stockpile and think truly 2 weeks ahead of time on a storm. But sorry.
Okay.
I went too far.
And next, and you also see a picture of some large culverts that are going to go in along West Front Street from Highway 90 south, all the way to the Jack in the Box area, that area. In addition to those culverts going in, the capacity of that drainage ditch back there is going to increase. We're looking at making it a 100-year capacity ditch. So that area, it's a low spot, and all the it's part of the natural flow of Allen's Creek towards the Brazos River, goes right through that area. So by increasing the capacity of that ditch, it'll hopefully decrease the potential for flooding, not just in that area, but the entire community. It's going to give the water a place to go. So Larry's been talking with FEMA, and we have an application in for FEMA to help pay for this. And it'll be actually listed as 3 separate projects, and we can get up to $121,000 per project. So that's over $300,000 that we're eligible for to help pay for that. And right now we have, we're going out for bids for the placements of those culverts. Larry, do you want to add anything on that? Okay.
When you're talking about drainage, this is something that just didn't happen yesterday. There's been issues that we've had in this city for 40 years. And we talk about it, we know about it, but no action. And what we're doing right now, we're working with the county and with the Brazos River Authority as far as cleaning it from Mixville Road all the way up to Stocko Road. It's basically in that area, that's where everything holds up at. You've got trees, you've got cars, you've got all kind of unique things in this ditch that water's supposed to be going through. So we're working with them to get it taken care of, and hopefully within the next 6 months you'll see an improvement, because once that's opened up, it's going to help everybody else. I mean, we can get the water out of Sealy, but when we hit that water, that dam there, it's coming back. It just only can go so much with the way it's congested right now. So we are attacking the drainage issue in Sealy all the way around.
And now the next category that we're going to talk about is tourism. Now, Tony, do you want to discuss any of the upcoming stuff that you got going on downtown? For
yes, we have a cruise in and street dance coming on June the 10th. So everybody get ready for that. It's usually a lot of fun.
Okay, and then let's see, Boo Bash is actually on Halloween Day.
Yes.
So how many did we have this past year, do you estimate?
About 2,000 this past year.
So we'll hit 30,000 this year?
We're hoping.
Yeah. And then, the Jingle Mingle, that's in Christmas time frame. We got the tree lighting ceremony downtown, which brings in people. It's always done somewhere around the same time as the Fantasy of Lights. We've got the State Historic Site coming in. It's going to have a 10,000 square foot visitor center. Out to San Philip and seeing the size of that building, it's awesome.
Mayor, maybe Brian could tell
Yeah.
how many visitors hit that site now when there's not very much to see.
About 8,000 a year, something like that. So
Okay.
Expect what?
we're hoping to increase about tenfold, so somewhere in the 70 to 100,000.
Okay. And that, also being right there next to the state park. Now, before the floods, what was your average per year? Do you remember?
I would say 65 plus, 65,000.
Okay. So between those two sites, we'll be hitting between 150 and 200,000 visitors a year to Sealy. Now, even those are in San Felipe or San Philip, depending on which way you prefer to pronounce it. We have the hotels, we have the restaurants, we have significantly more gas stations. So anything that happens in San Philip benefits Sealy. It just, we're sister cities. I remember growing up, the geographic size of San Philip was more than twice that of Sealy, but Sealy has grown faster. Just luck of the draw as far as which one of us grew faster. Now geographically, we probably have close to the same geographic area, but our population is more than 10 times their population. So we have more options available to us. We're home rule, they're general rule, and state laws apply to us differently. One of the things, there's going to be a dedication ceremony on Memorial Day. Don't know the time yet. It hasn't been set, but it's going to be the afternoon. The American Legion has their annual Memorial Day ceremony, generally in the morning and followed by lunch. And then sometimes after that, there's 2 Eagle Scouts are going to have the dedication ceremony for the Veterans Memorial going in over in Levine Park across from City Hall. It's Cruzel and Sealy are the last names. I can't remember which first name goes with which last name. But they did 2 separate Eagle Scout projects that are co-located. So we're going to have a nice marble Veterans Memorial, which you can see the picture, it's already been placed. On top of it, they're having a stainless steel giant dog tag made. And then next to that, it's going to be a flagpole. And there's 2 park benches around it, and it was designed such that future Eagle Scouts can add onto it with more park benches, walls around it, just so it can expand and continue to grow as the community grows and become even more of an attraction for visitors to Sealy. Another option that was discussed, and there's going to be future Eagle Scouts, you know, in addition to building that, is maybe a policeman's memorial over by the police station. There's already a memorial at the fire station for fallen firemen. So, you know, just the memorials, in addition to all the historical value we have in this area. Okay, the last page of the report, it's kind of hard to read, and that's not, there's about 3 times that many columns on the TxDOT report. Let's see, page 14, it has the hyperlink for this report. You can go to the Texas Department of Transportation website and look up the project tracker. You can find out the status of any project going on in Austin County. So if you got a road near you, you want to know, when are they going to finish this thing? You can go there and it'll tell you. If you want to know when they're going to start, it will tell you. It will tell you the start point, stop point, which road, what they plan to do, how much it's going to cost. And there's information on there that at our level we'll never need, but you can go there and you can find that information. So I made it to the last page. So I guess we've got a few minutes left for questions and answers.
Yeah, I have actually a question.
Okay.
So the big push on economic development, bringing business and stuff into the community, I deal with almost every realtor out here, and there's a shortage of real estate. Is there a push from the city to help bring residential development to the city area?
Larry, do you want to?
We'd love to see master plan communities in the Sealy area. There's a strong demand for residential homes as well as what I call apartments.
2 areas that I personally think are going to be big areas for residential development. Okay, we know where the new elementary school is going to be going in on 2187. I'm looking at that area to the north of there and along 1094 as being residential. That's my personal expectation. Also, we know about the lake that's going to go in between Sealy and Wallace. Last year, the county judge said that they came and talked with him, but all the environmental studies they had done and other things they had worked on expired, so they have to start the process all over. So as of last year, he was expecting 5 to 10 years before the first bulldozer hits the ground. But that's going to have recreational areas. You can be pretty sure it's going to have residential growth around that area. So to the southeast of Sealy and northwest of Sealy, that's where I expect the residential growth. Of course, retail growth along the main corridors, and then I expect the industrial growth to go where it's already started, 3538 and 3013, that region. I-10 right now, if you go to the community profiles that are listed on the EDC website, I think the average daily traffic count for I-10 through Sealy is somewhere around 48,000 vehicles. If you compare the numbers for Highway 36 and I-10, there's about, I forget how many thousands of vehicles getting on and off I-10 at Highway 36. If you look at the Highway 36 traffic count through Sealy, there's 2,000 vehicles average per day getting off Highway 36 in the downtown region. That tells, that's, developers look at that. It tells them where they're going to find the people that are going to come spend the money. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Wynn?
What's the status of the YMCA?
Larry sent me an email yesterday, so I don't remember the specifics.
They're supposed to be making a presentation on May 9th, the YMCA in regards to the bid that they got and what their recommendation is going to be.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's where it's at. It's
we
May
might
9th.
turn dirt soon.
I hope so. Okay. Can I get an update on like 090? A lot of people are asking about 090 going over BNSF and Highway 36. That project was let out and it was supposed to be done by the end of the year, but because it's incentive-based, it's already been moved up to November 1, and it may be even sooner than that. You've seen they've only been out there, I think, probably 6 weeks at the most, and they've done a lot of work. That project is going very quickly. I'm hoping that it will be ready before school starts, but that's really pushing it. But, you know, November 1's better than January 1. But it is incentive-based, so you're going to see a lot of activity. You're going to see people working there on Saturdays and Sundays because every day is important, and whatever they can get in there, they're going to do. In regards to additional lanes from Brookshire to the Brazos River, they'll start construction this year. It'll be a 4-year project. From the Brazos River to 3538, you're looking at next year starting construction with a 4-year construction period. And then in 2020, from 3538 to go to 71 in Columbus with a 4-year time frame. So there's a lot of construction on the freeways and in this area, a huge amount. A lot of the reason for it is because of the parking lot that we have here on Saturday, Sunday evenings. You can't get to Houston, you can't get to Katy. And the problem we're having with public safety, we're having to make sure we got a person on both sides of the railroad. Because with 090 out and with I-10 as a parking lot, and then if, heaven forbid, we have a train that's stalled in downtown Sealy on all the crossings, we can't get across. So if something was to happen, we've got a major issue. And when U.S. Representative Michael McCall was here a couple of weeks ago, that was one of the things that we stressed to him, and he had mentioned to TxDOT and to the railroad that we got to get this thing done ASAP. So they are working very diligently on far as getting things taken care of. And like I said, with improved transportation starts your economic growth. If you do not have transportation for people to get to, you're not going to have economic development. Same thing with flooding. If you've got flooding, nobody's going to build a plant in a flood area. So we're tackling both of the issues, and hopefully you'll see in the next few months that things are going to be hopping. That's it.
Okay. Larry's got a fantastic working relationship.
There will be 3 lanes on one side and 3 on the other, add an additional lane on each side. Plus, there will be new frontage roads, as well as there'll be new bridges that will be constructed also during this development period for Interstate 10.
And
2020 with the 4-year projection. And then from there, from San Antonio, they'll be going from San Antonio to Columbus, and I do not know what the time frame is on it. It's probably going to be like the 18 or 19 time period, because they've already done surveying and they've got everything that they need to have done on that area.
And, you know, Larry mentioned new overpasses. If you go to the 290 overpass in Brenham at Highway 36, it's got the one-way frontage road. It's got the U-turns in there. All through here, that's the new kind of overpasses that are going to be on Interstate 10. There's going to be additional overpasses between Sealy and the Brazos River. There's talks about doing that also at Rexville Road, to where I-10 goes over Rexville, which will improve the interchange there with the frontage road. So there's a lot of good plans. Larry's got a fantastic working relationship with TxDOT. And anytime we have an economic development announcement, such as SECA coming in, such as SNC Lavalin coming in, TxDOT said, let us know, because the more economic growth we have here, the higher it bumps us up on the priority list for transportation funding, which in turn, that improves our transportation, which brings in more economic development. So it's kind of, you know, mutually beneficial for the economic development and transportation development. Okay, any other questions?
One more comment, and you may have heard it last week or the week before. There's a company called Hyperlink or Hyper something, is from California. I met with them in January at the TxDOT meeting in Austin. And they've got 10 projects they're looking at doing throughout the United States right now. And they're basically transportation within a tube, within a pipe. They've got a temporary project goes from California to Las Vegas they're working on. They're perfecting it where this thing will go anywhere from 600 to 700 miles per hour. They've got one of the locations they're looking at is going from San Antonio to Houston. A person will be able to go to San Antonio to Houston in 20 minutes through this thing. So I can't tell you that's going to be tomorrow, but I can tell you it's going to be within 5 years. You're going to have this. That's going to happen, no doubt. We may be impacted with that also.
Okay.
Are you going to get the job?
So-
Debating on that too.
Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Vince, and I think they have a couple of ribbon cuttings and stuff to go.